Resilient minds, active voices, democratic futures. Welcome to YouthWell, the podcast where young people and experts come together to inspire change.
The United Nations defines an inclusive society as one that overrides differences in race, gender, class, generation, and geography, ensuring inclusion, equality of opportunity, and the ability of all members of society to determine a shared set of social institutions that govern social interaction. In other words, we could say that an inclusive society is one that not only accepts but embraces diversity. And diversity in today's Europe is everywhere. Living in a multicultural and diverse society has many benefits, as getting to know other cultures, ideas, and ways of living fosters innovation and competitiveness. But it also presents many challenges. That is what the head of Communication and Community Development at Intercultural Action Europe, Weisinger, explains.
I mean, the benefits, of course, are you have a diversity of voices and experiences to learn from, to see the world differently. I mean, I think we can always see the benefit of what it means to have, not just one leading voice, one idea. When multiple ideas come to the table, you can be more innovative, you can be more competitive, you can be more interesting, you can be more collaborative. But I suppose, what's the downfall? The downfall is that it takes time and energy and capacity and a willingness and trust to hear other voices. And that means that if we see that there's conflict that's happening in our communities, there's not necessarily an easy way to say tomorrow, if we just did XYZ, if we just listened to this one person, then everything will be fixed. We need time and really we need funds to be able to listen and be reactive. And oftentimes it's not the quick fix. I think that especially, the masses want, we don't want conflict. We don't want bad things to be happening, but it does take time and energy to really listen when you have many voices that have different ideas, different backgrounds, different histories at the table. And I think, I don't want to say it's a downfall, but what I mean is that we need to understand that takes time and energy. And if we don't accept that, then it can really feel like it's detrimental to progress.
Sometimes multiculturalism is seen as the cause of all troubles. However, for Rareș Voicu, president of the European Youth Forum, differences between people should not separate us, but bring us together.
So really it is at the center of everything that we do. Of course, we see anti-democratic forces every single day making quite a bit of a fuss and trying to place all the issues that our societies are facing on multiculturalism. So they try to portray multiculturalism as a topic or a concept that needs to be blamed for things that are going bad in our societies. And it's very easy to find the other or people who are different from us as the scapegoat for some of our issues. But we believe at the Youth Forum that this approach is deeply, deeply flawed. We believe in the values of the universality of human rights, actually. So having this applied as a standard to depart from in all policies, in all democracies. And we really think that once we understand that it really shouldn't be only our commonalities that bring us together, but also our differences, I think we'll have a much easier time traversing all of these difficult moments that we are going through as a society. But of course, that takes time, that takes sensibilization, that takes awareness raising, and that's also part of what we do at the European Youth Forum and the work that our member organizations do at pretty much every single level you can think of. So this work of raising awareness about European values, raising awareness about the importance of of open, of inclusive societies, of multicultural societies, and the value that they bring for all of us.
Barbara Gecse, project coordinator at United for Intercultural Action, shares a similar view. Diversity, she states, is a virtue and solidarity a duty.
Yeah, so we do think that interculturality is the best way to stop racism, because it's a very basic thing. It sounds sometimes very difficult. What is racism? What is, fighting for their rights, and why do we need to fight? But actually, I do think that the response is very easy and easier than we used to think, and it's just about getting to know each other and understanding each other's point of view, and then we can live just in peace next to each other. And I think, or we think that strengthening this intercultural relations between civil societies and minority groups, and also individuals and political and economical actors, is the key to build a more equal and nicer world. And also, so we do think that diversity is a virtue and solidarity is a duty, we used to say.
Indeed, having a diversity of cultures in the same region does not mean that one has to disappear in favor of another. It's all about coexisting and exchanging cultural values and traditions, according to Maya Weisinger from Cultural Action Europe.
The ultimate goal is that people feel free to maintain their identities, maintain their cultural practices, and are also able to share and learn from others. And I think we're seeing more of that. And I think, of course, where that exists a lot and where it's very visible is with youth, with young people across Europe who are doing, they're doing exchanges, they're working on different projects. You can see also in the cultural sector, there's mobility projects to work on artistic projects and cultural projects across borders that is really fostering these types of relationships. And so I think it's a really good example of how, the thinness between these cultural borders, we don't want there to be a monoculture, right? We want there to be the opportunity to learn and to share with each other. And really, in a lot of ways, I think that's what's happening, especially in younger populations.
Young people then seem to have a crucial role in this integration process. But why exactly is it so important for them to take action on this issue? And more importantly, what can they actually do? The president of the European Youth Forum, Rareș Voicu, believes that young people should not only act, but lead and shape the conversation around multiculturalism and migration.
I think it's important to include young people and to have actually young people co-lead these conversations and these narratives, because as young people in the past 5-6 years, we have faced so many different challenges. We keep facing so many different challenges, whether we're talking about the pandemic, high youth unemployment rates, we're talking about the mental health crisis across Europe for young people. We see that we keep going from crisis to crisis, both specifically as an age group and as a demographic as young people, but also more broadly at a societal level. We see so much global turmoil, be it wars, be it political unrest or political instability. So I think it really is very accessible and very easy also for us as young people to fall into this trap of blaming diversity and blaming multiculturalism for the problems that we are facing today. So I think that's why it's important to have young people involved, not only in understanding and really in kind of internalizing this value of human rights and of diversity and inclusion, but also to lead the conversation and to shape the conversation on these topics. Because of course, our lived experiences as young people are really the ones that should be shaping this discourse as to why does it matter that in my community, for example, we have young people or people in general from different backgrounds, people that have different lived experiences, and that we can interact with each other and understand, again, how our commonalities bring us together, but also how the ways in which we are different can bring us together and help us understand, how we can live together at the end of the day.
For Barbara Gecse from United for Intercultural Action, young people can act as a bridge between generations.
And I do think that young people are important in this dialogue because they have a lot of new thoughts and they can think differently, and they really have these new thoughts that and they can be a bridge between adults as well. So I think it's very similar in a lot of countries, but in Hungary it's like from outside the capital, you are going to the capital to study, and then you go back, and then you can tell your parents that you have met with a lot of nice people, and they are doing that and that. And building bridges.
In order to do so, both Rareș and Barbara emphasize the need for young people to be connected and organized. Rareș Voicu invites anyone interested in activism to stand up and seek out people and organizations that share their ideals.
If you're a young person and you see and you are afraid and panic about what's going on around you, know that you're not alone. So there are organizations out there that organize young people and can help you get organized to fight for the cause that matters for you, whether it is the rights to bodily autonomy, whether it is the rights to or activism for peace, or you want to fight for democratic participation or anything else. There are organizations and youth organizations out there that can really help you get organized and can help you in your mission and in your work. So go out there, find a youth organization, get involved, and let's make sure our democracies stay alive and, most importantly, healthy.
Barbara Gecse goes a step further, stressing the importance of creating spaces in our towns and cities where people can discuss and organize. She also highlights the essential role of education in this process.
I will mention two things one from the side of how we build our cities and how the places are organized where we live, and that's our community spaces. And I feel like with gentrification and with building in a lot of big cities, a lot of offices and industrial districts, we are having no community spaces, especially in Eastern Europe. It's very hard to find a space where you can go in the afternoon and meet with your neighbors and meet with your friends and just sitting there without paying for a coffee or anything. So I think it's crucial to have these spaces where we can meet, where we can be together, and we can think and just realize that we are not alone and other people are facing with very similar problems. And from the other side, I would mention education. I do think that education also helps to find our way of thoughts, find our imagination, just getting to realize that things are not just as they are, so we can change them, and we can imagine our other like realities. Yeah, I would say that we can imagine other realities. It's very important.
These ideas, however, clash with the reality we face today, with far-right political parties gaining power across the world. Organizations like the ones we are speaking with feel that their work is at risk. There is one thing, though, that has always defined activism: resistance. Maya Weisinger from Cultural Action Europe relies on this resistance and on what they call actionable hope to look ahead.
Well, we are using the term actionable hope right now a lot in our organization. And, everything is at odds right now, to say, okay, we come together, we're united, we want to do X, Y, and Z, and we see the multiple crises that are happening across Europe, across the world. But resistance is very important to this work and has always been. It is not new that cultural workers and artists and community organizers have really come together and found ways to learn from each other and to build acts of resistance, especially in times like these. So I think what's important for us is to understand that there are ways to move forward. There are ways that change can happen. There are ways also within the European Union and within how we are working between community and institution, that there is space for us, and it's important that we are also claiming that space. So it is a lot about taking action and taking care for ourselves. This is a long-term process. Change is a long-term process, and we also need to protect ourselves in that march for change.
Rareș Voicu from the European Youth Forum believes that we are at a pivotal moment in history and calls on people to stand up for what is right in order to be, he says, on the right side of history.
We've all seen at some point in our lives a documentary about a very significant moment at some point in history that was maybe civil rights movements that were led by ordinary citizens that were really counting on a significant movement of the masses of people and of citizens as a group, and all these big civil rights movements that led to some of the rights that we enjoy today. The universal right to vote, the universal right to participate in elections and to be able to be full citizens of society. And I think many of us, when we look at these past civil rights movements, we kind of like to tell ourselves, if I was there, I would have definitely taken part in that. I would have definitely fought for what's right. I would have definitely stood for what's right. So I think right now, as we traverse our very own societal shift moment, where our rights are taken into question, where the promise of this evolution of civil rights is taken into question, we have the opportunity as young people to stand up for what's right and to be on the right side of history when it comes to making sure that the progress we've made so far for civil rights, the progress that we've made so far in our democracies, is not taken away by far-right politicians, is not taken away by populist politicians who really want to undermine all the work that all of these movements have done so far.
Maya Weisinger suggests that we can achieve this by sharing, learning, and talking about topics like we're doing here today.
I do think it's a good time for learning and sharing. I've really been thinking about what it means to be more analog in the work that we do. And I think, even though podcasts are digital, that's part of that. We need to be listening to these different voices that we wouldn't hear in, say, mass media, or we wouldn't hear in these big social media channels now. And I think these are exactly the type of spaces that we can foster and develop when we are, building our sites of resistance. So I appreciate that you've made this space and this podcast to be able to talk more deeply about this type of work, and it always strengthens us to also reach across sectors and reach across the work that we're doing. So thank you for that.
With these words, we conclude this podcast, not without first thanking Maya Weisinger, Rareș Voicu, and Barbara Gecse for sharing their knowledge with us. And thank you all for tuning in to this podcast created by OBREAL in the framework of the YouthWell project. My name is Georgina Boixereu, and it has been a pleasure to be here with all of you.